Hey everybody, you're watching Ready Set Drone, and today I'm very excited to show you the brand new DJI AIR 3S. This thing is pretty amazing and it is really great in low light, so stay tuned and we'll check it out. So DJI just launched the AIR 3S, and it is meant to be that Goldilocks, Swiss Army knife, all-around great performer of drones that takes things from the Mini series as well as the Mavic series and puts them into a size of a drone that is in between those two, in between the Mini and the Mavic. It can do just about anything you need a camera drone to do, and it does it really well. So let's start with the camera. It's a dual camera with a 1-inch sensor on the 24mm camera and a 1/1.3 sensor on the 70mm camera. So this is basically the equivalent of a 24-70 lens, which is a very popular zoom lens, but this one has 2 fixed focal lengths as well as some digital zooming that you can do. So the nice thing about that is you've got 2 high-quality images, one that is a lot closer than the other, and then you also can do some digital zooming on it if you want to get in even closer for a photo or video. Just know that when you use the digital zoom, you're going to introduce a little bit of digital noise to the image. But when you're in the prime focal lengths themselves, if there's plenty of light, they both look fantastic, and if it's low light, the 1-inch sensor looks amazing. The 70mm struggles a little bit in low light because it doesn't have as big a sensor, but it still looks pretty decent. But having that ability to zoom in both optically and digitally is really nice to have, and part of the reason I call this the Swiss Army knife of drones. In addition to the lenses and the quality of the sensors, it also has new hardware and software that helps it perform better in low light, gets rid of noise. The image quality in low light on the 1-inch sensor is just astounding. It's super, super impressive. There is a higher maximum ISO, and it has 14 stops of dynamic range, which means that you can see well in shadows as well as in bright spots within the same image. It does have impressive slow motion capabilities. At 4K, you can do 120 frames per second, and at 1080p, you can do 240 frames per second, which really slows things down and makes it look a lot more interesting than it might at regular speed. So if you're one of those people that likes to color grade, and I'm not, it has 10-bit D-Log-M as well as HLG, which are both settings that will allow you to do easier color grading. And with the 10-bit, you're getting a lot more information stored in your videos, giving you a lot more ability to go in and adjust things after the fact. But everything you're seeing in this video was shot in normal mode, without 10-bit D-Log-M, without HLG. It was all shot just in normal, and you're seeing it as it came straight off the camera with no post-processing, no post-stabilization, and no color correction done. So for someone who just wants to go out and shoot and have a quick turnaround time for their video and photos, it's pretty amazing. And then of course you can shoot in RAW and in JPEG mode on your photos, and adjusting the photos is pretty easy. So I recommend shooting in RAW plus JPEG so that you can actually go in and adjust them after the fact. Of course, if you're trying to do creative shots, things like waypoints and master shots and quick shots, it does all of those things. And there are a couple of new features, particularly with the panoramas it can do, the photo panoramas. There's now a mode in Panorama, in addition to sphere and wide and vertical, all that stuff. It can now actually do one called free panorama, where you get to pick the angle of the camera, both the tilt and the yaw, and tell it how much of a panorama you want to do. So if you want to do a panorama that's just a few degrees from here to here, you can do that. If you want to do a panorama that's almost 360, you can do that. You just tell it where you want it to start, where you want it to end. It will figure out how many photos it actually needs to take to make that panorama. And that versatility is actually pretty cool, because before you were limited to the presets. Now you can customize with the free panorama mode. And then of course there are master shots, which allow you to do things like circle and a droney and a rocket and all those things right in a row around a particular subject. That's something that just gives you the ability to quickly get all those shots if you want to have the option to use it later in post, or to use it as a montage of things focusing on an object. One thing to keep in mind if you're going to use the master shots is that you can set the distance and the speed and some of the parameters on how it does those master shots. And just know that while it does have obstacle sensing, just probably want to make sure if you're not in a big open field that you have it set to something that's going to make sure it avoids any trees or buildings that are around you, just to be safe, even though it probably wouldn't hit them because my experience with its obstacle avoidance so far has been amazing. One other thing they did for photographers and videographers is they added 42 gigabytes of internal storage and an SD slot. So now you have 42 gigs that you can write directly to in case you forget your card or your card is full. You've got that option. And I found that getting the footage off of it was very easy. You don't even need a battery. You just plug in a USB-C to your computer. It shows up as a drive and you can copy everything without even having a battery or turning the drone on, which is really nice. So the Air 3S is pretty quiet, and I'm holding the mic to my mouth right now and talking, but now here's what it sounds like if I hold the mic about 6 inches away from the drone. It's got that sort of lower tone, pleasing sound that you get with the bigger drones for sure. Now, talking about the flight characteristics, it is of course a DJI camera drone. So every time they release a new camera drone, it just flies better and better. They get quieter and quieter. This one has a theoretical maximum flight time of 45 minutes when moving forward and 41 minutes when hovering. I have found that batteries have not been an issue at all. I have 3 batteries for it, and every time I've gone out with it, I've gotten all the shots I want and been pretty much ready to go, and even changing batteries out at about 40% because I've flown over water a few times. The batteries do come, if you get the Fly More combo pack with this triple charger, it does come with 3 batteries, and that allows you to charge them in this charger here. You can also charge them in the drone just by plugging it in via USB-C. You want to avoid using a USB outlet in the wall or something like that because those tend to be less power and a lot slower to charge this. If you use the same kind of charger that you would use to charge a laptop or power a laptop, generally those are going to work well and charge this pretty fast. And by the way, to get the drone battery out, you just push these 2 little buttons on the side. Very, very easy and convenient, and has a nice satisfying click when you pop it in. And then to get them out of this, there are 3 little buttons right here on the back, and you just push that button and it lifts right out. And one thing you want to make sure you do is put this in the right way. You can actually start to put it in the wrong way like I'm doing here. So you want to make sure that your pins are lining up with your pins, and it just clicks right in. Very satisfying. And then like I said, if you use a higher wattage charger, you're going to be able to charge these pretty quickly using this triple charging case. I'm also going to say the RC2 is pretty amazing. I've been using the RC2 for a while with the Mini 4. I'm so glad that this is so cross-compatible with so many drones now, being the Air 3S, that you can fly the Neo with this. It's nice to have this one screened controller that works with so many different drones. You don't have to buy it with this. You can buy it with their standard remote controller that will allow you to fly it with your phone. That's another option. I just like this because you don't have to tie up your phone, and the screen on this is nice and bright. And the range, of course, on this thing is really great. I'm not even gonna get into how many kilometers or miles you can go with it, but it's further than you should be flying it. So as long as you're keeping visual line of sight on it, you're probably not gonna have any problems with signal from the transmission from the camera back to this screen or back to your phone, because the range with O4 is amazing. Real quick too, I just wanna show you how the Gimbal Guard goes on. This gimbal, you can probably see here, is kind of mounted in that way, and I'm not gonna say it's fragile, but I certainly wouldn't want to put too much strain on this unnecessarily. And so in this case, I feel like the Gimbal Guard is probably one of the important things you should keep with it at all times. And to put it on, well, straighten up the camera. The top part of the cover covers these 2 sensors in the front. You'll notice also it does have sensors in the back and on the bottom, so this thing is pretty censored out for its obstacle avoidance, and that's why it does so well. But you want to protect these sensors, and you want to protect this sensor up here. So you just put this on first, you squeeze the bottom a little bit up, and then put it in, and it stays on very, very well. It's just a little bit of a squeeze, and then out, and a squeeze, and then on. So kind of put the top in first, squeeze the bottom, and then make sure it just clips in right here on the bottom, and you're gonna be in good shape with this Gimbal Guard. When you buy the Fly More combo, you also get this bag, which is a nice bag. DJI always does a nice job with their bags. It has a pocket up here in the top. It has some Velcro adjustable interior dividers, and it has this cool latch, which I like. You pull this down and it actually just kind of goes underneath like that and stays latched. So it's very easy to come on and off, but it tends to stay latched, especially if you have stuff in it. The only thing I'll say is that I wish this was about 5 or 10% bigger, because when you go to put the drone in, it is not very easy to get in. It's just a little bit time consuming to get this drone in there and to hold all the props in place. One other thing I wish DJI had done with the Air 3S, and maybe they could make it an optional accessory, is instead of this gimbal guard, to have that strap that has the gimbal guard integrated and then holds all the propellers in place. Because I often find with this case, as I've been putting it in and out, the propellers kind of like go out like that, and then they kind of get stuck and they get bent and all this other stuff. So I do really like the bag. I just wish it was about 10% bigger, because it would make it easier to put everything in and out of there and maybe give you the ability to carry another battery or two or something like that. So tracking on this thing is very, very good. I was impressed with the Mini 4 Pro when it came out, how well it could track, and this is the next generation of that. So it's able to do a little bit better at recognizing a particular person or a particular vehicle and not get them confused, and also pick them back up if it loses them. But I will say we were able to stump it through a very tight tree-lined trail that was narrow and with low trees, and while it got stumped and it got stuck and I had to actually take over and fly it out of a few tight spots, it never crashed. The LiDAR and the optical sensing and the obstacle avoidance that it has kept it away from the trees far enough that it didn't hit any of them, and I was pretty impressed that it could do that in such a tight, challenging area. So if you're trying to track something in a really, really small area, you might run into a little bit of difficulty, but if you're tracking in a fairly big open area, even with trees and power lines and stuff like that, you're not gonna have any problem at all. So if you're looking for a camera drone that can do it all, this one definitely can. The Air 3S is a culmination of all the technology that DJI has come out with for the last few years, and really is the best of every drone they've ever made in one package. It is a camera drone, so it's not an FPV drone, so I'm not comparing it to the Avata or the Neo or something like that. But when you compare this to the Mini series, to the Mavic series, even to the old Phantom series, it is the next generation and really, really is versatile. It's small enough that you can travel with it. The flight time is amazing. You don't really need any more than 3 batteries to get plenty of flight time with it. And the images, especially in the dark, look fantastic. If you're considering your first drone or upgrading and getting rid of a bunch of other drones, you could get rid of all your camera drones and just have this one and you would do just fine. I'd love to hear what you think about the DJI Air 3S. Please comment below. If you like this video, I hope you'll subscribe to Ready Set Drone. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time. And remember, don't fly alone.